Cancer, a disease that kills more people than HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria combined. It is now considered the third highest cause of death in Kenya. 30% of cancers are curable if detected early. Among women, breast and cervical cancer is the most common, whereas for men, it is prostate cancer. Meet Sally Ogalo. When I first met her, I was surprised. I was waiting to see her looking unwell, but that was not the case. She was energetic, and one could not tell that she's a cancer survivor, living positively with HIV. As she welcomes us into her sister's home, I couldn't wait to hear her story. What was it that made her hopeful and so full of life?
For me, talking has given me strength. Sharing my story has given me strength. Because I find people encouraging me, and people say, if you didn't talk, I couldn't have gone for a test. If I didn't hear your story, I was going to move out of my house. If I didn't. So I've helped, even if it is one person, but they're happy.
Yes.
And they start looking at life differently. That if this person has lived this long, then I only got tested, so I can also live.
Sally Kwenda has now become a household name. Her story has touched many. Looking at her, it is hard to tell that this lady has gone through devastating times. Following a series of painful events dating 16 years back, the year 2007 dealt Sally another hard blow. Sally had attended a cancer awareness program and decided to do a pap smear test, only to be told that she had stage 2 of cervical cancer.
And I was like, what? Stage 2 cervical cancer. I thought cancer is a serious thing. How come I'm not feeling anything? I'm not showing any signs. And something that really hurt me is that they just said you have cancer. There was no counseling. And the doctor didn't give me time to digest. He said, but why are you crying and you have HIV? I mean, HIV is worse. I said, but I'm a human being, so I need someone to talk to. But they didn't care, so I asked him, okay, I have cancer, what next? So he said, looking at how it is progressing, we need to take off your uterus to save your life. Otherwise, if we don't do that, it will spread and you can even lose your life. Can you imagine those strong ones? So I was there and I was confused, so I shared it with my husband. I was married then. And he said, if the doctor feels that that is the right thing, why don't we go for it? Because otherwise, we lose you. It was very tough because then I had already lost 2 children because of HIV-related illnesses. So removing my uterus meant I wasn't going to have any children. It was very tough for me. But all in all, we signed a consent form with my husband and yeah, I had to go for it. So I was hospitalized, I was booked for theatre. And all this time I was wondering, God, why this? Why me? Why do you allow this after living with HIV for all this time and now you want me to live with cancer? I was asking myself so many questions. In fact, the doctor gave me 2 months. When the diagnosis was done, I took 2 months before the surgery. And he said, are you sure you're okay? You're willing to do that? But he encouraged me. And of course, like many of us, I went for a second opinion, for a third opinion, and everybody was saying, yeah, go for it. It was tough, but I had to.
Cervical cancer occurs when the cells in the cervix begin to grow and replicate in an abnormal way, an uncontrolled way. Now, the body finds itself at a state where it cannot organize these cells for normal function. We meet with Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, an oncologist at Texas Cancer Center. She explains what symptoms one can look out for.
Bleeding even after intercourse. You have low abdominal pain. You have a watery discharge. Imagine you are. The thing is, cervical cancer affects one of the most private parts of a woman, and for example, there's already some distress from the symptoms. One is the bleeding you get maybe after intercourse. You also get a discharge, vaginal discharge. You are wet all the time.
Sally's uterus was eventually removed due to her HIV condition. She was hospitalized for more than a month.
Even in the hospital, I tried to maybe ask if I could get some counseling, but that was going to be charged separately. And it was very tough. So from members of my church, my family, I have a sister who was very supportive, and that is the sister I live with even now. She took me in as a mother because I'm the last born in our family. She gave me a lot of support with her kids, with my other brothers, my friends, my colleagues. I really thank God for my employer because they paid the bills and they said even if your cover goes beyond what we are covering, we'll pay the extra. So I got strength from that. And I got also a lady who came to tell me that, Sally, don't worry, I have also gone through this, and we can be friends and we can be sharing. So slowly I recovered and I got out of hospital. But I was on very close checkup because the doctor said I cannot go through the cancer treatment, the chemotherapy, because of my immunity was very low. If you know about the white blood cells, that CD4 cells, they were 30, and you know a normal person should have 500, and mine were only 30. So my immune system was very low. So he said let's wait and see if it can be boosted, if it can be maybe 200 cells, then we can do, but he said no. So I didn't do chemo, I didn't do radiotherapy. So I was just on follow-up. All this time. I was being followed for just to check if I'm fine. And of course, with my HIV condition, I was falling sick all the time, getting opportunistic infections. So I was hospitalized many times for different conditions. So as I continued, I met other people. I like talking so much because with HIV I was already in some support groups. And I said, even with cancer, I can also find people who have cancer like me and we start support groups.
And this is when her calling came to raise awareness about cervical cancer and HIV.
So at first I could encourage my colleagues, have you had a pap smear test? It's very important for any woman who is sexually active to have a pap smear test. Many feared, some went, some even got positive results, and okay, they didn't go through what I went through, they did chemo and they were fine. But in this support group I got a lot of encouragement from women who, for me, I thought it was worse, but I could find people who were even worse because I was embraced by my family. You find a woman who was thrown out. So I got strength just seeing somebody else who has this condition. And something else I would like to say is that medics or people who are in the medical profession, they should prepare a patient, and that is what we are advocating for even in the group. Just call, like now we have a support group, call a member or call someone to share their story or their experience with the patient, and possibly even before they go to theatre. Because you know, when doctors speak in medical terms, some of these things you don't even understand, you don't know what they are. And it's better if you hear it. For me, I don't know somebody else, but for me, I would prefer if I got a patient who had gone through cervical cancer surgery and what they went through to share with me their story. Then I couldn't have become so depressed the way I was. Because I was so depressed to an extent that I even attempted suicide. But God saved me, and I believe He had a purpose for me, maybe to share my story today with someone else who's going through the same. But not everybody is strong, or may be strong like I am.
Not having a uterus meant Sally was unable to have children. This took a toll on her marriage. She remembers the painful memories of how her marriage broke like it was yesterday.
When my uterus was removed, there's a lady who came to visit me when I was still in hospital, and she told me, your husband is asking us to get another lady who is young and can still give birth because he cannot live with a woman who cannot give birth. I was still in pain. So when he visited himself, he confirmed to me that yes, that is what he wanted. Yeah, so I asked him, why did you sign the consent form then? But he said, yeah, I was saving your life, but remember, I also have a life, and I want a woman who can give birth. I said, but I've given birth and we had 2 kids, remember? He said, yeah, but they're not there. I want someone who can help me have a family. That was very tough for me. But anyway, he confirmed to me that that is what he wanted, and I just called my prayer partners. We prayed together, and they gave me hope and courage that if God wants me to be alive, it doesn't matter whether I have children or I don't have children. He has a purpose for me to be alive. And that has given me a lot of strength. Although it's tough just to remember what happened that day, it's very fresh for me every time I talk about it.
The one person who she needed the most abandoned her, and Sally was devastated. But she chose to stay strong. 2 years later, Sally's husband, who was also HIV positive, died.
I attended his funeral service and I talked about my story and how we lived with him. And all the mourners were there, were just surprised what I was talking about. But I had to tell them and just to be open. And you know where I come from, our culture is that people don't just die. Somebody is killed or somebody does something for someone to die. But I told them, no, we've been going through this, and so he's died and he's left me. Maybe, I don't know, because after he told me what he told me, we separated and he went his way, I went my way. I came back to live with my sister. And I could hear stories that he's looking for women.
Sally and her husband found out their HIV status 8 years before Sally was diagnosed with cancer. It was a big blow to their union.
In 1999, Sally Egalo found out that she was HIV positive. She was devastated and suicidal. She went and threw herself in the Indian Ocean. Sally was determined to die.
I was in the hospital. That time I'd lost 2 babies. They weren't sick. They just died in their sleep. At 7 months and another at 2 months. And I got tuberculosis. So I was hospitalized for some time, and there was some blood that was taken they wanted to do their own tests. So I was told to come back after 1 week for review. So when I went for review, people were queuing. It is a public hospital, and when my turn came, I went in and I was asked, when I said my name, the lady was there. I don't know whether it was a counselor or a nurse. Just took a brown envelope and said, "Ukonamke." And I looked at this envelope and I just got blank, like, what am I hearing? Because for me, I'd heard about AIDS, yes, but I thought people are just dying, and so this is my turn to die. So I looked at that envelope and I started crying, and she was like, "Oh, there's so many people waiting outside. Give me time to also see the others." So I looked at this envelope, and to me it was like a burial permit. Like, I'm dead now, this person is confirming. Okay.
A death sentence.
So the first mourner, since I had my burial permit, the first mourner was my husband. So I went home and he asked me, "Sweetie, how was it?" And I did the same. Okay, with the brown envelope. And he just looked at it. It was a Friday, and most people say Fridays is my birthday. And he just looked at that envelope, took a shower, changed and went. Came back on Monday morning, changed and went. So it was like he could just come to the house, change and go. You know, he wasn't talking to me. So that is when I started getting so depressed, because this is the only person I knew, and we were living in Mombasa. We didn't have relatives there, and he's treating me this way. So I got very weak, because now there's no one to cook for me, and I'd lost my children. It was only me and him in the house. So when he did this to me, I said, I just take away my life. It was like that sound was coming. Why are you waiting and you already have your burial permit? So that's when I threw myself in the Indian Ocean. I just made up my mind. I said, I've been telling you that I'll die. This time I'm going to do it. I said, go ahead, you're over 18 years. What are you still waiting for? So I went and did that. But I was saved, and then the police said, if this lady has a story and she's saying God is telling her to go and save his people, why don't we give her a chance? So that's when I was given the chance to tell my story and to see other people who are more sick than I am.
Not dying that day made Sally believe that God had bigger plans for her. Her purpose on earth was not complete, and this, she says, is what gives her strength every day. She attributes her strength to God and her family, who have been her biggest fortress.
I have a sister who's very supportive. She's like a mother to me, because I started living with her when I was 8 years old. And the first time when I went for the pap smear test, I told her that I've gone for this test, and the doctor says that I need to go back because there's something they're seeing. So when it happened, I just came back and shared with her. It was tough, because she's like a mother. I've lost both parents, so for her it was like, this is my daughter breaking this news to me. She was affected, but of course she couldn't show me, because I rely on her for that support. And she shared now it was hard now to break the news to other family members, but so far they've given me a lot of support, because I have two brothers who are medics, so every time I got a report, I could sit down with them and ask them, read for me this report, explain what it exactly means. And they did that. So I can say that apart from my husband's side, my own family, I wasn't like discriminated or stigmatized, but they really embraced me and showed me that love.
Being unable to have children and not having a companion are some of the things that Sally has painfully learned to live without.
Like when we were still dating, so those are the days that were coming in my memory. Like I was looking at him in the coffin, and what I was seeing is just the sweet memories. The time he was dating me, taking me to the beach, and I really cried, and I said, I'm sorry if there's anything that I did to you. I'm very sorry, because I even started regretting. I wish I didn't. Okay, he's the one who left me, like, because he wanted to get a woman who was giving back. But I said, I wish I could just follow him and be with him until maybe he could have died. But I realized that again, I can't change that. He's gone, and I just have to move on. But each time a man approaches me, and I always share my story, even with someone who wants a relationship with me. And this has always brought me those memories, like your husband is dead and you want me also to die. Like there's a man who literally asked me that, so you killed your husband and so you want to kill me too. I said, if I wanted to kill you, I couldn't have shared my story. I could have just kept quiet, and then you also just get the disease and die. So that is something that I'm still struggling with, although it doesn't bother me so much nowadays. I just say like a joke, me, I'm sick. You want me, you love me, but you just know that I'm sick. Would you want to live with someone who's sick?
Yes.
There are those who've tried like, okay, but again, when it comes to relatives, they say, think ahead, because this woman will not give us children, this woman is bringing disease in our house. So that at times has broken my heart. So for the last 3 years, I decided to put off any man who comes and say, I love you, I want a relationship with you. I just say no, and this is my stand, and I won't do it because of ABCD.
But Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, having been one of the first oncologists in Kenya, explains removal of the cervix doesn't make a lady any less of one.
Even if the cervix or the uterus has been removed, you're still a woman, and just to encourage them that they need to work with the woman during their journey.
If you disclose that to a man, maybe a man who has not had babies and their parents are waiting to see grandchildren, that is just an ex. They say this is not a wife material. I mean, we already have sisters here. Why should we have another one? We want somebody who will also give us children.
Cervical cancer remains a major public health problem in developing countries, especially in Africa, where an estimated 53,000 women die of the disease every year. Cervical cancer in many circumstances leaves no option but to perform surgery and eliminate it.
But of course, when people talk, like ladies, when we are together and people are sharing, like, I'm going to visit my baby, I'm going to do what, I'm going for a baby shower. As a woman, it affects me. So I've tried to not think about it so much. But of course, once in a while when people are talking about children and also in the African society, you know, a woman minus breast, minus the cervix, the uterus,
Yes.
is not a woman.
The stigma.
So there's that stigma of you are not complete. And for in-laws, that means a lot.
Sally's long and rough journey has made her stronger than ever. Even though she lost her husband and 2 children and her hopes of having more were shattered, she does not let her predicaments define her. She continues to share her story with the world. Saving 1 or 2 people or helping them live positively is what drives her every day. The burden of cancer in Kenya can be reduced. Early diagnosis, easy access to treatment, facilities, medical support and support groups for the many people struggling with this disease can be a reality. Sally's plea to every Kenyan is to support the Cancer Awareness and Patient Support Program under the Kenya Cancer Association Relay for Life, which is an annual event that celebrates cancer survivors, remembers those lost and rallies everyone to fight back. This year's theme is Cancer, Education, Awareness and Patient Support. Funds raised during this event will be used to empower communities with information about the prevention, detection and treatment of cancer. In 2014, the first Relay for Life event was organized and 6.25 million shillings was raised. Relay for Life offers everyone the opportunity to participate in the fight against cancer. It represents the hope that all of those lost to cancer will never be forgotten. From the very young to the old, each team can raise funds before and during the relay, and these funds are dedicated to funding the Kenya Cancer Association. This year's target is 40 million shillings to be used to roll out a cancer education program integrated into each community, particularly in Kenya's rural areas. Establish a cancer support network for caregivers and survivors for psychological support, and also establish a toll-free line for all Kenyans in need of cancer information and support. Najma Ismail for The All Woman.